What's happening, y'all? We're coming at you guys with our second episode of Horror Watch. We hope y'all enjoy the videos, and we'll see y'all later.
People call me Yaya. This happened to me when I was a young girl, maybe 7 or 8. It was a Saturday afternoon and my mother and I were at a mall shopping. We went from store to store, mostly for me. I was a spoiled kid. We went into a coat store, and I was pretty bored, so I would constantly walk away from my mother to play and stuff as I did in every other store. My mother would always call my name and I'd go running to her. This time, I was playing in a round coat rack. My mother called my name and I ran out. I ran right into this older man. Then he grabbed me. He grabbed me by my wrist and asked me why I was running. I told him because I have to get to my mom. He then told me he could take me to her, but I said no and he let go. It was weird because I saw this man in almost every store he went to, but he never had any bags. After that store, I had to use the bathroom really bad, so I went while my mother went to the food court. I sat down to use it for maybe a minute when someone else came in. The person walked right up to my stall. At this point, I was just looking at the person's shoes. They were men's shoes. I was confused of why a man would be in here. Before I could look up, the man said,
"Hey, Yaya, everything okay in there? I'll come in if you want me to."
It was the man from the stores. I looked up, and I could see his eyes peeking through the crack of the door. He then started shaking the stall. I began to scream. I've never been so afraid in my life. Then 2 women walked into the bathroom, and the man took off. These women took me to my mother and told the police. They found him due to the cameras. I don't know what his intentions were, but the police said he probably would have kidnapped me. Who knows? From that time on, I would never leave my parents' side while in public. This story happened about 3 years ago. When I was 16, I had my first boyfriend, Ben, who just so happened to be my next door neighbor. For the first few months of dating, we were going fine, up until I had dinner at Ben's house one evening. His dad, Graham, gave me the creeps. From the first moment I ever met him, he was creepy to me. He shook my hand tightly and had a big grin on his face with his big, bulging eyes. At the dinner, I swear Graham never took his eyes off of me at all. Every now and then, I would glance over to see if he was still staring at me, and of course he was. From then on, I spent more time around Ben's house. We would watch movies in his room, play video games, or just study homework. Whenever I was at Ben's house, his dad would always be lingering around. Like he would always burst into the bedroom without knocking, asking things like, "How's everything?" or "I thought I heard you calling me." Basically an excuse to come in. It's like he wanted to catch us doing something, if you know what I mean. And whenever I would go to the bathroom, of course, he would try and come in, even though the door was locked. He would knock and say, "Oh, I didn't realize someone was in the bathroom." This creepy stuff went on for a while, maybe about 2 months, but there was this one incident that really scared me. Ben asked if I can go to the basement and grab a couple of pops. I went down there and looked around in the fridge to see what drinks they had. Then I heard the door close. It was the basement door. And then his dad came walking down the steps. He asked me what I was doing down there, and I told him I was just grabbing some pop for myself and Ben. I smiled and walked past him and headed up the stairs. I tried to open the basement door, but it was locked. His dad locked it behind him. I turned around and said, "Sir, could you help? The door is stuck." He didn't reply. I went back downstairs and I saw his dad with his top off, rolling a can of Sprite on his body, saying, "It's a hot day, isn't it?" I was extremely uncomfortable. And I asked once more, could you open the door because it seems to be stuck? I didn't say lock because I didn't want him to know I was uncomfortable. He said to me, here's the key, and placed it on a small table next to him. And then he said, come and get it, while smiling with his tongue rubbing against his teeth. I let out a nervous, awkward laugh as I thought he was joking. He wasn't. I crouched down to grab the key, but just as I did, I could feel his face near mine, and he was smelling my hair. I could hear him, really close, breathing in through his nose. As soon as I got the key, I walked up the stairs to open the basement door. I just left at that point, and I went home and cried in my bedroom. I never told anyone this story, and I broke up with Ben shortly after this incident. We lived there for 2 more years after that, until we moved away. Every now and then, I would see his dad in his garden or something, and he would always give me that same creepy smile like he did in the basement.
That was pretty creepy.
My name is Steph, and I recently went out drinking one night with some of my co-workers to celebrate a promotion. At around 2 a.m., I decided to call it a night and phone for a taxi. I got in and I told the guy my address, and he started driving. I was pretty drunk after the night out, and I actually passed out in the back seat of the taxi. I'm not sure how long I was out, but when I woke up, I looked out the window and we were driving way out into the countryside. I must have been out for a while to get this far. I said to the driver, where are we? I didn't get a reply, not even a glance at me through the rearview mirror. That awful feeling of realizing the dangers I was in was dawning on me very quickly. I went to pull out my phone to call the police, and I couldn't find it. In fact, my pockets were empty, along with my bag missing. I moved slowly to open the doors, but they were locked. I told the driver to stop, but he didn't answer me. I told him again, he didn't say anything, but he just motioned his finger to his lips, implying that I shut up, while looking through the rearview mirror. At this point, I was terrified. I just sat back in the taxi with tears in my eyes, thinking the worst and what I can do to get out of this situation. The car finally stopped when he pulled into a parking lot next to a river. There were 2 vans there, and about 4 men standing outside next to the vans. The taxi driver got out and went to speak to the men. I couldn't hear what they were saying, and what I could hear I didn't understand, as it was another language.
I bet they were trying to sell.
One of the men then opened the van doors, and I could see about maybe 3 women tied up and gagged crying. I started to tighten my Adidas up because I knew I was going to haul ass when I got the chance. I started breathing very fast, and I could feel my adrenaline kicking in. I kept trying to open and kick the doors, but they wouldn't budge. The men didn't notice this and walked over towards the car. They grabbed me and threw me on the ground. They then dragged me along the ground towards the vans and tried to force me in there with the other girls. I was kicking and screaming, trying to get out of the men's grip. I bit one of them really hard on the hand, and he screamed and let go of me. I somehow managed to slip away from the other men and ran straight into the river and started swimming as best as I could to the other side. The men were shouting and getting into their vans, to which I assumed to try and capture me again. But they never did, because I finally made it across the river and started running across the fields to get away as far as I could. And I didn't see or hear these men again. I found help and eventually informed the police of what happened. As far as I know, I never heard anything from that taxi driver, those men, and most importantly, those kidnapped girls.
Oh, so they were kidnappers? Mm-hmm. What would they do?
Probably put her into slavery.
My name is Dave, and I'm 28 years old. This story happened years ago when I was a kid. One summer, an ice cream van started turning on our street. I don't know how old I was at the time, maybe around 7 or 8. But when the ice cream van turned up, of course all the kids came out to buy an ice cream. I was best friends with a girl named Sally, who was about my age. The ice cream driver was friendly to all the children. A little too friendly, if you know what I mean. Especially to Sally. He would always try to talk to her. For example, ask her how her days have been, what she's doing, stuff like that. Irrelevant questions for a young girl just trying to buy ice cream. More and more, I would see him near our street, or even the area we lived in, like the park we would play at, or near the school playground. And it wasn't even to sell ice creams. He would just be there talking to one of our parents from the street. Just some kind of cover to be close to the children, and especially Sally. One Saturday afternoon, he came into our street like he usually does with his ice cream van. However, this would be the last time I would see him or his van. I saw Sally walk over towards the van. I was walking to the car with my mother, and at that time, we were getting ready to leave. I asked if I can get an ice cream, and she said no because we have no time. We have to go.
She said no, right?
The van then drove off. Later that night, Sally was reported missing.
Oh my.
She hasn't been heard of or seen since. And this was around 20 years ago. What makes it even worse is the ice cream man hasn't been seen also.
Wait.
I know in my heart he took my best friend. And only God knows what happened to her.
Disappeared too.
He killed her, didn't he?